Okay, hello everyone. And so this is entitled, but it asks or poses a question. Are Black California lawmakers helping or are they hurting Black California residents or Black American residents? So I was listening to a video not very long ago, and a few people brought up some important subjects. And one was the Black California lawmakers for Black residents that reside in California. Are they actually helping us or are they, derailing us? And so one individual brought up the fact that the numbers are really important, which I agree that they are catering to the major base in California and primarily the major or majority of the base in California is the Hispanic residents. And so that's the reason why a lot of laws are created to cater to those particular individuals because it's a larger number of people that are from that uh, nationality or those different nationalities that are in the Latin communities and groups and so on. And they usually, how the politicians and lawmakers operate is they try to cater to the largest numbers of individuals that will vote. And I believe that is true. And I cannot say that that isn't true. To me, from what I have experienced in the past, what I've seen, it looks as though a lot of times they will do a lot of campaigning and whoever their major base is or the numbers of larger numbers of voters, they'll even go so far as to sell themselves to pander. Um, and maybe they try to do it in a way where it's mild, some not so mild, such as, for example, when Donald Trump, when he was on the campaign trail, he went to Black churches from different states, Southern Black churches, in hopes that there would be Black Republican voters. Um, and some of that worked in his favor, and then some of it didn't. Then there's also people who will, they'll go to these different groups, like if it's the gay and lesbian community, or if it's the Latin community, or if it's the Black community, or if it's women's groups, whoever they think is their largest base or they're going to get the largest number of votes or impact. Whatever the trends, they read about whatever the trends are. And so everything is pretty much set on the course or on that path directed for that particular base of people that they feel are going to be the larger numbers of voters. And Ben Carson is a Black lawmaker. He is involved in HUD. I had a previous video where I talked about how he works under Donald Trump. He used to be a neurosurgeon. Um, and so now he is into politics. And so we also have had other well-known California lawmakers, such as Maxine Waters, and Kamala Harris, and you're just seeing different people that are involved in government and law, and or they have had a say so. Um, you know, different faces that are familiar. Jerry Brown, he's the one right now who Jeff Sessions has come in, in combat with over the sanctuary cities. And so he's the California governor, Jerry Brown. And then we've had, people that have been, operating in smaller communities Black communities, or what was known as primarily Black communities, or have a larger number of Black residents that still reside in California. And so I noticed that you see all the different picketing for different causes and stuff, and funny stuff. But anyway, there's so much going on in Los Angeles, and in California and outside of California. Um, there have been some things that have happened that also California seems to be one of those states that when certain things go down, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to, certain issues, it seems like we're very popular for voicing our opinions. But I noticed here, this is Eric Holder. He was an attorney general in right here, so also African American. But there are other people about certain things that have happened. Okay, for different laws and different things that go on in the California area. So this guy, he's a pot entrepreneur. He fights for a black role in California's whitewashed bud industry. So I guess he owns this shop, or Virgil Grant, with that of his California cannabis. So I guess he's an entrepreneur, and so he runs the shop. And so, because pretty much with that whole industry, it's, white run, which most of the establishments are white run. I'm not saying all of them are, but most of them, there's someone that's involved in it, and they're white. And we've had certain lawmakers who reflect the particular individuals that they cater to, because they might be from the same background. And I mentioned Kamala Harris. I mentioned Maxine Waters. And so these are just random pictures. So these are not the individuals. I did name out some of the people who are key players here in California. But I was going to look up, let's see. So Maxine Waters, let's just take her for example. And with Maxine Waters, she's a U.S. representative, okay? And so her education was at Cal State University, LA, and Vashon High School. And so she's a representative of California 35th District. It's been since 1993 to 2013, representative of 29th District in 1991, 1993. So she's also a big key player. Maxine Waters, or Maxine Moore Waters, currently serves as the U.S. representative for California's 43rd Congressional District. Previously served the 35th and 29th districts that I read. So she's a congresswoman. What this video is talking about, Black lawmakers. There was a video that I was watching, and there were two men, and they were talking amongst one another, and it looked as though they didn't live. One said he had used to live in California, and the other, I don't think he's a resident of California. He just may be reading the laws and reading some of the things that have happened prior in California that have impacted Black Californians. And so they were speaking in terms of Black Californians, and they were saying, they raised this particular question: are the lawmakers hurting more than helping? Are they impacting us in a positive way? And And the things that I had mentioned earlier is that their base is their numbers. And so they're going to say things and they're going to do things that are scripted. Some of it isn't scripted, but they're going to primarily cater to their largest numbers of voters to keep them in office. And I believe that is the main answer for that. And even if it means that you may end up throwing your own people under the bus, so to speak. You may not intentionally want to do that, but it may end up doing that. And then they mentioned that some of these individuals that were lawmakers that weren't Black were Roman Catholic, and that they brought up the issue that California was possibly a target to be taken over by Roman Catholic or people who are just pretty much showing more favoritism towards people of Latin descent. Now, I will say that there has been some incidences where there have been certain job establishments, just like in the local communities here in California, that before the ICE and before the deportations and before the issues around the DACA, there were jobs that would pretty much hire only, people that would, like, they're white or they're Latino or they're Latin, that look like they could be only white. And they're in positions of management, they're in positions of being your boss, they're in positions of jobs where Black people can't, really easily access or get their foot in the door. And I've mentioned this before, and what neighborhoods and what areas and what the climate is in that particular place where you reside. All of the laws and all of the things that go on, the trends or whatever is happening in that area reflects on what the jobs will be like, what the schools will be like, what they'll be teaching in the schools, the people who are the biggest numbers of people there, what kinds of things that they will celebrate in the communities more often, reflect on who's living in the residing area, who they're catering to, and what kind of products they sell in certain stores, what types of stores are being put up in the neighborhoods. And so I did see that there were some stores that were like just regular stores that catered to like everybody, and those stores were being moved or taken away, and there were Latin grocery stores that were put up, in certain outskirts of Los Angeles, neighboring cities like Pasadena and some other places where it could have been a Vons or it could have been like a Ralph's, and they tear it down and they put up a Latin grocery store. And so it caters to the biggest numbers of people that are in the area. And so the problem being is that when you come to issues dealing with people who are legal residents in California and people who are may not be of Latin descent or whatever, or they're not Latin culture, they like I said, that certain words that you play on, certain things you take out of different statements, mission statements, certain things that you use broad, ambiguous terms, weed out others. And the Black community gets pushed further and further behind. And I do believe that happens a lot because they mention that, that the community is on the decline. They don't have the numbers. Even if they all voted, it's not enough numbers for that person to win the vote. And so they usually say things that you want to hear. They promote things that you want to see, and they're going to cater to the greatest numbers. And then also not only the greatest numbers, you also want to cater to people who financially, economically can pay to keep you in office. So that plays a role now, even more so. And so you can have the greatest numbers of people and they can be all you know, people that don't make very much money or little income, or, if you have a certain number that make like a moderate to level income, that is just above low level income, that having the greatest numbers may not be as big of an impact as those who, such as the gay community, if you have people who, they significantly, they make a lot more income. And so, believe it or not, West Hollywood is not a cheap place to live. And so, in California, West Hollywood is probably one of the largest, what they would quote coin as WeHo or North Ho, but it's usually WeHo, is usually high living income. And believe it or not, the gay and lesbian communities actually have the income. And so, it's not so much of a thing of promoting homosexuality as it is the fan base of what your people can pay to keep you in office, and then also other than just numbers of people. Because if you have large numbers of Latin community, but they're being deported and they don't have legal residence and they're being prohibited from voting, then you can have a million people who can't vote, and it won't change laws in their favor. But if you have a smaller number of people who can vote, not only vote, but they also have a high incomes, like 6 figures or more, those are the people you want to target as your fan base. And so that goes without saying, that some of what the guys were talking about was true, but not entirely. Because with Donald Trump, I believe him being the businessman that he is, not saying that he's a good businessman, but his mindset is about business. And so he's running the government and the country like a business. And so either you have this and this and this, and if you don't have it, get out. And so if you don't bring me this and this and this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to lay it out there. If we can't come to the terms of these agreements, then this is the way it's going to be. And the same thing is in the laws here and anywhere else in the US, it's more contingent upon not only just the numbers of people, but also how much people's income level is. Because believe it or not, they're not going to tell you that a lot of their campaign sometimes is run on donations from different organizations. And those organizations, if they put a more investment in you as a lawmaker to make the laws that they would wish would impact them in a positive way and rather than a negative, like tax breaks, tax write-offs, certain different things that would impact them on a status that would catapult their income even more, they'll keep you in office and they'll pay to keep you in office. And so that money comes in handy, especially when you're trying to not only get the votes, but you're also trying to gain access to government and become a politician or an official lawmaker so that you can make waves. So in society, the way it operates, it's not just about having large groups of people. As now the way this world has changed, you see a lot of things that have to do with money. And it always had, but now it's even pushed more in that direction. So look at, for example, if you look at Amazon and Google and all the, this may be going way back, but like Broadway, J.C. Penney's, and Sears, and all these little stores, they're kind of obsolete. I mean, some of them may be still around, but there's not as many as it used to be. They've closed a lot of these stores because online shopping is the thing to do. And it has taken a lot of more of the customers for numbers of reasons, because it's a one-stop shop. You don't have to worry about the hassle of lines. You don't have to worry about, is your service going to happen right now and there? You can choose. You can, you don't have to the hustle and bustle and gas to drive over there, and then you're waiting in the lines, and then you have to the hassle of taking something back if it doesn't. You can just simply it's sent to your door, the item you purchased, and then you can send it back if you don't want it. And I'm not saying that there isn't any snafus that happen with online shopping, but like anything, most people enjoy the shopping in the comfort in their home because it decreases the stress, especially around holiday time. And so it's the same thing, that the sign of the times and the changing of times and generation impacts how also votes, how people are going to vote, and how people are thinking, and the numbers of people and who they're going to cater to. What generations and trends are going on out there? Who's going to be your greatest fan base? Who's economically sound that is able to carry you out through whatever your candidacy is? So whatever you're going to try to impact in the state or in the government and what have you. So it has to do also with money. So I think that they left that issue out. And that's an important factor as well. And it's not so much you can have the many places, like we've had places where there's been many Black people, but they created poll tax in the past to keep them from voting. They had little numbers of white people, white residents, but they had greater numbers of Black residents, but they did things to keep them from voting. It's the same thing that with the Latin community, they can have large numbers of Latin people in California, but those laws may not all reflect that particular group. So as we're seeing, they were taking some of the different statements out of different mission statements and clauses and things like that. So they can let you know who they're catering to. They're catering to Americans. And so you know what that sentiment is. Now, I'm not saying that I'm taking a position on this. I'm just merely reiterating some of the things that have been written in articles that have literally changed under the wool or under people's eyes overnight. And they don't realize this. This is going to make a big impact on the next elections. And so, this is a different article here. It said Trump was reportedly surprised that Black lawmakers didn't personally know fellow Black person Ben Carson. That wasn't even the only stereotype that Trump reportedly threw out during the meeting of the congressional. Probably know, and others probably don't even read about it, don't even know. But there are laws that are made by specific individuals based on, based on money, based on who's in charge of things. So, so it has a lot to do with the way things are going to impact people. It's primarily the Black community as well. So, I also heard the two men voice their opinion, and they said that they noticed that there was a homeless population here in LA, which there is. There's a large homeless population in California, all over, basically. And one reason is because we're very giving. The other reasons, it's a warmer climate here, and it's easier to survive versus other places like New York and Chicago, especially during the winter months. And the certain elements provided here are a little better than in other places. So that's why we probably have the largest number also of homelessness, because people come from other places as well to come here to be homeless. The other thing is that we also have a large population of people who are undocumented, who probably now under these new laws, because of ICE and because of the new things that have been changed, are hiding. They probably lost jobs, or they're going to lose jobs, because there's laws that are being made as we speak that are trying to get employers to cooperate with the law enforcement or people in government in terms of deportation efforts. And so these are the issues that are happening here in the California area and probably throughout. And so those also pose as an impact on how people are going to vote as well. And so some people are for it and some people are against it. Um, and so you also have people who are naturalized citizens that were sworn in, and those people feel like they had to pay a lot of money. They had to go through a lot of steps to become naturalized citizens. So it's unfair to have people that didn't go through the steps and pay money and go through the years of toil to become a naturalized citizen, and they are granted. These guys, I don't think he's been here in a while. And he was mentioning also that most of the homeless people he thought were black. That was then. Now we have a large number of homeless people who are white primarily because of the opioid crisis. And so that is also going to play a part in elections, I'm sure, when they start talking about those issues, because I'm sure they'll come up in issues on how to fight or how to provide some type of help for people that have drug addictions and what have you, because we have a large population of homeless people who have been homeless not just because they're down on their luck or what have you, or they just don't possess the skills. It's because of drug addictions that have contributed to them becoming homeless. Um, so we had like people that might have been from the crack era that were your larger homeless population, but now the faces of homelessness is changing. We also have families that are being put out and displaced and that are homeless. And it's not necessarily because of drugs, but it's because of economics, because of the increasing building of unaffordable housing. And so apparently this young man who was here, he's been gone for a number of years because he hasn't seen the changes that have happened here more recently. And so those would be the reasons, I think, primarily as to why, we have the numbers of homelessness people, and we also have encampments of RVs, people who are living out of the cars or they're living out of RVs. And I'm seeing a lot of white faces. And so it is not just black people that are homeless. I'm seeing a lot of white people, actually a larger number coming in that are white people that are homeless. So with that being said, maybe you could look at any one of these articles, a number of the articles, or you could give your take on what you feel, whether black lawmakers are actually helping or hurting. I think there's like mixed messages. Sometimes they will cater to black people and pander to black people in particular ways to gain numbers of votes. But other times I feel as though that they focus more on their larger numbers or groups. Either they're able to pay to keep them in, or there are larger numbers of people that they feel are in the community that will vote them in if they say the right things that appeal to that fan base, or to those that their audience rather, that will keep them in office. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this video. I think there be much more discussion on this topic because it goes a long ways. Okay, well, thanks for listening. Bye.